Hey everyone, it's Michael Brook from Rapid Couples Counseling. I just thought I'd record this brief video on the 5 behavior patterns that degrade relationships that a lot of people commonly do. So a lot of people once get into a relationship, think everything's going to be wonderful at the beginning, but over a period of time, these behavioral patterns can creep in. You might find you recognize one of them, you might find you recognize more than one, or you might find that you're doing all of them. In which case you need to book in for a couples counseling session straight away or get my book as quickly as you can. But regardless, it's really important that you recognize that these things are going on. So let's proceed. What are they? So the 5 common behavioral patterns that most people do that degrade their relationship. The first one is a mutual deprivation pact. The next one is permission to be emotionally dysregulated. The next one is the Mexican standoff. The next one is fighting for intimacy. And the last one is the emotional hostage. So what are they? Let's go into more detail. So the first one is the permission to be emotionally dysregulated. This is very, very common. So what is the permission to be emotionally dysregulated? Well, the permission to be emotionally dysregulated is something that pretty much all couples do in a long-term relationship. They let themselves lose their ship with their partner that they would do with nobody else. They allow themselves to yell and scream and do highly emotionally dysregulated things and highly emotionally dysfunctional things with their relationship partner they would do with nobody else. And the problem is with this is their partner notices. And this is a habit of killing desire in the relationship. I've heard from many couples saying, you yell and scream at me and you'll be yelling and screaming at me in the car. And the moment we get out of the car, we're with your friends, we're with your family. And you would never think about doing that with anybody else, but you're actually okay yelling and screaming at me. How is that acceptable? This is an extremely common thing. And it's also very common for both people to give themselves permission to be emotionally dysregulated in a long-term relationship in ways that they would never have done at the beginning of the relationship. Now, this is not good, but it appears to be normal. And carried out over a long period of time, this will degrade the relationship. That's the first one. Next one is what I call the mutual deprivation. Now, what the mutual deprivation pact is, let's say I have a need for time and attention, and I'm with someone whose faces is always in their mobile phones. This might be familiar to many of you. So if I need my partner's time and attention and their face is always in their mobile phones, then my needs aren't being met. And so over a period of time, if my needs aren't being met, then I look at my partner and go, well, my needs aren't being met. I don't see why I should go out of my way to meet my partner's needs. So I will not meet my partner's need. And so if my partner does it at the same time, they go, hang on, my needs aren't being met, so I'm not going to meet yours. So you end up having 2 people looking at each other going, I know what your needs are, I know what my needs are, my needs aren't being met, yours aren't either. So there's this mutual deprivation pact. This appears to be very common in long-term relationships, particularly unhappy ones. It appears to be normal for many relationships, but the problem is it kills desire in both people. People will only tolerate this for a certain period of time, and then one or both people will dysregulate the relationship or throw the relationship into crisis in order to get their needs met. So the mutual deprivation pact does not work. Now, some people can do this for their entire lives. Some people can do this for 20, 30 years, but they end up being pretty bloody miserable all the whole time. And I'm interested in happy relationships and what makes people happy and to enjoy their relationship as opposed to what makes people miserable. Now, the next which tends to follow from the mutual deprivation pact is the Mexican standoff. And the Mexican standoff tends to happen when one person goes, I know what your needs are, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go first. I'm not going to give you a satisfaction of meeting your needs. I want you to come to me first. And so what you end up having is both people looking at each other going, I'm not going to go first. I'm not going to make the first move because then I might feel weak for whatever reason, right? And so you've got this Mexican standoff where they're both looking at each other going, I'm not going to go first. And people can do that for years. But the problem is the longer people stay in a relationship where the needs aren't being met, the more unhappy they become. And once again, just like with the mutual deprivation pact, people only tolerate that for so long. The Mexican standoff doesn't work. Somebody has to go first. And this is why when I work with couples, I always say, you both go first. You both actively seek to meet each other's needs. And if both people go first, then change can happen very, very quickly in the relationship. Now, the next thing, which also appears to be relatively normal, is fighting for intimacy. Now, in the absence of positive attention or positive intimacy, human beings will seek out negative attention because negative attention is better than no attention at all. And so, or negative attention is better than indifference. Now, this is what happens for the 3-year-old. A 2 or 3-year-old human, if they are not getting the attention they want from their mum and dad, they'll lose their shit or they'll do something naughty, because when they're losing their shit or they're doing something naughty, they get mum and dad's undivided attention. But adults are just like 3-year-olds grown big. So it's very important, and it's a very common thing for people to fight in the absence of positive intimacy. Because like the couple in the photo, when you're eyeball to eyeball, you'll know your partner is very important to you. But if your partner has their face in their mobile phone and they haven't talked to you, or if they haven't connected with you emotionally for years, then it's really easy to pick a fight with them because you know they're still important to you and they're still fighting with you. The opposite of love isn't hatred. The opposite of love is indifference. And so this is a very, very common thing for people in relationships. They fight for intimacy. And it's actually surprising when you speak to lots and lots of couples, how many people, when you talk about this, actually recognize it, and they sheepishly go, oh yeah, this is probably something that you recognize if your relationship's in trouble. Now, the next one is the emotional hostage. The emotional hostage is the concept whereby a person makes themselves emotionally a hostage to their partner's behavior. So the emotional hostage is incredibly reactive to what their partner does. So their partner might, I don't know, put their shoes in the wrong place, put a dish in the dishwasher incorrectly, or put a cup down and make a noise. And then all of a sudden the world's falling in and it's the worst thing ever, and their partner's a horrible, terrible human being, and their life's crap, and they're just incredibly reactive to their partner. And so this is a concept of the emotional hostage. It's a good way of making both of you miserable. But also, this can happen if one person has a limited capacity to regulate their own emotions. People have a limited capacity to regulate their own emotions, will actively seek to regulate the behavior of people around them so they don't hit emotional states they don't want or they can't handle. And so if people have diminished levels of emotional capacity to regulate their own emotional states, then they will do this. They will make themselves an emotional hostage to everything their partner does. But this clearly isn't what's going to keep you happy. What keeps people happy is that two well-regulated individuals who can tolerate their partner's difference, who can tolerate variation of their behavior, who bring their good emotional regulation to their relationship, and then their relationship improves. But some people feel like they're an emotional hostage. A person who's living with the emotional hostage feels like they're walking on eggshells, or feels like they're walking on rice paper, or feels like everything they do is wrong all the time. And that isn't a good way of having a relationship, and it tends to make people miserable. So these are the 5 common behaviors or patterns, behavioral patterns that over periods of time ends up severely degrading the relationship. Now, you might have recognized some of these, you might not. Some couples will do some of them, some couples won't do them, some couples are doing all of them. I'd suggest if you're doing all of them, then both of you are probably miserable, in which case what you need to do is you need to either get my book called Thriving in Flux from Amazon.com, or the link will be in the description of the video, or alternatively book in for a session. I'll also put the link to my booking site in the description in the video, or alternatively go to my website for more information. So I hope you've gotten something out of this video. I look forward to hearing from you. Please feel free to like or comment. I'll reply to them. I look forward to hearing from you. If you've recognized any of these, please put a comment in, and please put a like or and subscribe to the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll look forward to talking to you sometime again soon. Thanks very much. Bye.